Hello, everyone. My name is Ed Vasko. I'm the director for the Institute for Pervasive Cybersecurity here at Boise State University. My journey to Boise State started with a 30-year career in the cybersecurity industry, working across many markets, including finance, retail, hospitality, insurance, healthcare, critical infrastructure, and government. Throughout my career, I've also started 5 cybersecurity companies, selling my last company in 2018 to private equity. In wanting to take on a new challenge, I decided to enter academia and bring my experience and expertise to tackle the cybersecurity workforce development needs we have around the nation. It was my entrepreneur experience that brought me to approach Venture College at Boise State and discuss how we could team up to provide an event like the Cybersecurity Entrepreneur Challenge. The opportunities to grow Idaho into a national hub for cyber workforce and cyber entrepreneurship really starts with this event. Our panel today is titled Focusing When the Opportunity is Wide, Cybersecurity Portfolio Challenges. The title for this panel came about as a result of reflections on my own companies and experiences I have seen over my career. Specifically, I would share with you an experience I had with my first company. We were building a specific platform for the financial market. As we progressed through the development cycle and started showing our efforts to possible investors, we received feedback similar to, oh, this looks great, but can you just add feature X, Y, or Z? Something new that the participants swore would help us sell like hotcakes. And these additional features, of course, took time and effort and money and eventually knocked us off course from our original intent and extended our launch date. We realized far too late that we were trying to build a platform to rule them all, so to speak, instead of focusing on our original goals and problem statements. And so we fell for that classic siren song from people who wanted to add their spice to our recipe, but not be a part of the baking process. So we ended up with a platform that couldn't be maintained, didn't meet market expectations, and ultimately failed in its ability to attract customers. And that experience was a lesson I learned the hard way, but it helped me with the next 4 companies I founded. And so my objective in this session is to help you all receive wisdom from a fantastic group of cyber leaders that are with me today as we discuss helping you and your teams focus, even though the opportunity in the cyber market is really, really wide. I've got 4 terrific cyber leaders here. 3 cyber leaders, not myself. I'm going to ask each panelist to take a few minutes to introduce themselves, starting with Kim Jones. Kim?
Ed, thanks for the intro and thanks for inviting me to this. As Ed mentioned, my name is Kim Jones, and my current role, I am the Director of Security Operations at Intuit. Intuit is a company you may or may not have heard of, but you have probably heard of some of our products such as QuickBooks, TurboTax, and Mint, and hopefully use some of those products in your day-to-day life. My journey is slightly longer than Ed's and is vastly different from his. I cut my teeth in the military within the intelligence arena. I'm a West Point grad and spent 11 years in the profession of arms. I left the military in 1998 at the National Security Agency. This was before the existence of cybercom and was doing what we were calling at the time information warfare protect. After that, I spent about 5 years as a consultant working for some firms you may have heard of like KPMG and Capgemini. I took my first in-house security job in 2003 as the chief security officer for a financial services firm out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Between 2003 and 2016, I ran security operations in a variety of firms as the CISO, usually in break, fix, or rebuild mode. I was usually the person who got called in when security was in a problem state a previous CISO or two, or in one case, three, had failed in the gig. And my job was to rebuild the organization and get it ready to work in leading practices. As such, obviously, I've had a lot of experience with different tool sets, different technologies, and different folks knocking on my door asking, hey, we have this great whiz-bang product that we really think that you need to buy, and have some experience in terms of vetting these things to determine whether they were sufficient and proper for our needs. 2016, I decided to go on another journey and actually went into academia and built one of the cybersecurity degree programs at Arizona State University. We have about 500 plus students right now in that program, and our focus is to train students for the real world problems of cyber beyond just the tech, but also the governance piece, the communications piece, and the critical thinking piece as well. And I'm still doing that in an adjunct role while I work full-time at Intuit, help work as affiliated faculty for Boise State, and actually work as an instructor within the SANS program as well. So I stay a little busy in my copious free time. And again, I'm glad to be here.
Thanks so much, Kim. Next, we're going to hear from Jay Radcliffe. Jay?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here as well. So my name is Jay Radcliffe. My current role is the Director of Product Security Testing and Research at Thermo Fisher Scientific. Thermo Fisher is a company that buys a lot of companies inside of the scientific space. So you might be familiar with us because we do a lot in the COVID space, whether it's COVID testing or vaccine development or vaccine storage. It has been a very wild couple of years here in the science space. But my role specifically is making sure that all of the products that we sell are secure. So my team is a team of pen testers that actually gets hands-on with these devices, and all of these devices now connect to the internet. They want to exchange information. We want to monitor them. We want to do more with that data. So it's very important that these devices are as secure as they can be. And that is a huge challenge because we have a huge array of devices, and many times the marketplace just says, well, we'll just add the internet to this and we'll have it connect to the internet and it'll be fine, not thinking about the fact that these devices might be in the market or be used for 5 to 10 or even longer years at a hospital or at a laboratory or at a pharmaceutical plant. My history is that of a hacker. My dad loves to tell a story about how when I was 3, I found a screwdriver and started taking everything in the house apart because I wanted to know how it worked. And I've pretty much been doing that ever since, really focused on computers, the Internet of Things, especially in the medical space. I'm very well known for hacking into my own medical devices. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and in 2010, I started researching my own insulin pump, and I found a lot of wireless security vulnerabilities. I reported them to the FDA, I reported them to Department of Homeland Security, and did a presentation at Black Hat, which is a very large hacking conference about it. And then went forward into the consulting realm, kind of doing offensive security, a lot of hands-on penetration testing in the smart grid arena, in the Internet of Things, in the Internet of Medical Things. Hacked my next insulin pump in 2016, which replaced the previous pump that I had, finding additional wireless security vulnerabilities, really focusing on that connection with the patient and looking at how these devices interact with the patient. You know, and the Internet of Things and kind of this entire world of devices that connect to networks is ripe with problems and security issues. So there's plenty of opportunity for entrepreneurs to find something that they can fix, something that will fix a problem that previously has gone unsolved. So I think this is an excellent opportunity, and I'm looking forward to participating in the conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jay. I appreciate it. Last but not least, Jason Stead. Jason, do you want to give us a background?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, everybody. I feel so inadequate with this amazing, talented group of leaders here. My name is Jason Stead. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for Choice Hotels. We are a global firm of about 7,200 hotels around 45 countries around the world. And you're probably asking yourself, why does a hotel care about security? Well, the answer is very simple. We have one of the largest, if not the largest, group of threat actors targeting hotels in the hospitality space. And if you think about this nature of it, you have those hackers that are after their financial information. You have those hacktivists who maybe had a bad hotel stay and they want to prove a point. And then you've got this group of foreign governments who want to know where every American is at every given moment. And so an easy way to understand that is to understand their travel patterns. And so it's been a really interesting ride. I got into information security straight out of college. I started working with one of the big four auditing and accounting firms. Had a really wonderful experience getting to know how companies work, how companies don't work effectively, and transitioned into into the financial services space. I spent some time in insurance, and I spent some time in banking before ultimately coming to Choice about a little over 10 years ago. And it's been a really wonderful opportunity to get to know this space and get to know leaders like this in our industry. And I can attest that there's not a day that goes by without some kind of a pitch that I hear. Some of the good pitches and some of the really, really bad pitches. I think it is amazing how many unicorn solutions that are out there that come across my desk every day that are truly, going back to what Ed said, that they will solve every problem you have under the world. They don't solve the problem they originally started with. And so I look forward to sharing a little bit more about that today. So thank you, Ed.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. And thank you, all three of you. Let's just dive right on in. I got a set of questions, but let me pose the first one. I'm going to go in the same order as the introductions and ask each of you to answer this question. And then after each of you have had a chance to answer, maybe we have a little bit of a discussion about it. So first question, one of the key questions facing any early stage entrepreneurs, is how do I ensure my offering and portfolio will meet a large enough market demand? And so really the question is, what guidance would you give cyber entrepreneurs as buyers of security services and innovators yourselves? So let me go ahead and start with Kim. Kim?
So 3 things to look at from that perspective. And again, remember my background. I've never done what you've done, Ed, in terms of being an entrepreneur. So this is us, the perspective as a buyer. First step, know your market space. You know, we particularly as cyber has become hotter, we've seen a lot of, and I love the term, Jason, a lot of the purple unicorns out there who are great. We can make money doing this. So we're going to dive in and attempt to solve every problem under the sun, or what we think is the problem, when you're not talking to the people who are doing this every single solitary day, and you're solving problems that really are on top of my list right now and want to charge me lots of money for it. So step 1 is know your market space to begin with. And the other 2 points I link together because this is how I look at products when they cross my desk. I look at function and friction. From a function standpoint, does this product solve a problem that I need to solve? Is it filling a gap in terms of my coverage space or capability? Is it filling a gap in terms of doing something within a particular arena that I need something done in? And if you think about that, as we've looked at the evolution of tech, when we've gone from co-location to data center to wireless to cloud-based, in a lot of cases, the problems are similar, but how we solve them and how the tech solves them have evolved. And just think about all of the cloud-based technologies that have come about in the past few years. And before then, back in the early aughts, a lot of the wireless technology that came about, and now a lot of the mobile technology that's come about from a security perspective. So I look and say, does this thing fill a function that I need filled? That's one criteria. The other one for me, from a friction standpoint, gets beyond just ease of use. If we think about security as good, necessary, and seamless as we want it to be, this is an extra step that causes resources. And when I talk to people about this, I talk about just the simple act of driving a car. If you wish to drive a car, most of us in most states require the use of seatbelts, and most of us reflexively take that 30 seconds or 2 seconds or 3 seconds to grab your seatbelts on before you start the car. Okay, that's a delay in time that has nothing to do with what you really want to do, is to just get from point A to point B in your vehicle. And that costs. Now, that cost for us is relatively minimal. It's a couple of seconds per passenger every time we get in and get out. I think about security the same way. Every time that I log in, every time I put two-factor authentication, every time that a security device, process, or control does something, it costs resources or time, either internally to my organization as my very, very intelligent product and software developers are trying to do things, or externally to my customers who are trying to get to the product or service that I offer. So everything that I can do to minimize that friction point, which then minimizes the amount of effort or resource that's needed internally to do something, is a good thing, because in the end of the day, it saves time, it provides value to me, it provides value to my customers. The other thing that I look at when I talk about friction is, and Ed, you alluded to this, there's also a friction associated with rip and replace. If your product at the end of the day still makes things faster for me, but I have a product that does 85% of what you already do, there's a cost point associated with me ripping out the old product, putting your product in and maintaining it. So I make sure I take a look at that friction point as well. So for me, other than just knowing your space and knowing what you're talking about, it gets down to function and friction. What is it you're trying to solve, and does it make my life a little easier for my customers, myself, and my constituents? That's what I do.
Yeah, no, thanks, Kim. That's great. Jay, you want to take a shot at that question? You want me to repeat it at all? Or?
Yeah, if you could repeat it, that'd be great, just so I can frame it right.
Yep. One of the key questions facing any early stage entrepreneur is, how do I ensure my offering or portfolio will meet a large enough market demand? And so what guidance would you give to cyber entrepreneurs as a buyer of security services and an innovator yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the thing that I look for in different products and the difficulty that I see in the space a lot of times is foundational. So, for example, I will, when I was a consultant, I would evaluate entire company's security and do kind of a cybersecurity maturity assessment. And when I would come in, one of the first questions I would ask is, well, how many devices do you have? Can you show me the inventory of your devices? And 90% of the time, the answer is, I can't do that. I don't have an accurate inventory. Now, that's a very foundational element, and it's a big component of a lot of security controls. So I look at, does this product meet a need on the foundational level? Like, I have to get the foundation correct before I can go after very specific targeted things. Because if my foundation, just like a house, isn't very stable, or my foundation isn't very well thought out, then I don't have the information needed to go and build things on top of it, looking for specific threats. So I think that, when I look at how, adaptable are you, how much of that portfolio is going to meet, I want to look at its relationship to foundational elements. And one of the areas that I would look at is maybe the critical controls. So there's lots of publications that focus on these, 15 critical controls, and kind of how does that tool, or how does your solution relate to those foundational elements of a security program? And I think that there's ample area out there, ample problem area to solve a thing and solve it well. And I think that what you spoke about earlier happens to a lot of different products when they come out is, I want to solve more. I want to solve 10 problems, not one problem. And in the end, they end up solving none of my problems, and not solving them very well. So I have found that the best products solve a particular problem at a foundational level, and then I depend upon that product to build the rest of my security program.
Good points. Good points, both of you. Excellent. Jason.
Really wonderful guidance here from Jay and Kim, and so tough to really follow. As a buyer, one of the things I really enjoy doing is advising startups, advising entrepreneurs. It is much more enjoyable, in my opinion, to be able to advise those folks than to have that sales conversation, because I have 50 sales conversations all lined up, ready to go. But there's a lot of opportunity out there to reach out to leaders in your space that you're trying to target and seek that feedback. They're experts in that space. They might help you think about things that you haven't even considered in the past. Adjacent markets, for example. Ed and I, we had this conversation, I think a couple of weeks ago, talking about different products and different opportunities. And we were just kind of spitballing back and forth of, oh, hang on, Ed, I see how you're solving that problem. But actually, that solves my problem over here. No extra work required. It just slides right in. And so I think it's key to find those advisors out there. And I'm not talking about some paid, expensive advisor. I'm saying find leaders in the market space that, especially some of these leaders in larger organizations, they tend to have a little bit more free time on their hands because they're not constantly in the weeds. And they've also got a great breadth of experience out there to help share more about what they've seen, what works and what doesn't. One of the things Kim said that really resonates with me is about how do you make my life easier? And how do you make it easier in terms of labor and resourcing costs? I can't stress that one enough. There are some really fantastic products out there. In fact, there's even entire spaces of products. And I'll look at security event management. Tools designed to collect all these logs, right? And if you spend hours and hours and hours and tons of resources on it, they can do exactly what they say they're going to do. I don't have that luxury. I'm willing to sacrifice that 20% to get me 80% of the way there with 20% of the labor. It's a very challenging space as we think about, especially the cyber markets. There is definitely a lack of available resources out there in these organizations. And so if your product can make their life easier, and I'm not saying solve it, but make it easier, then you've got yourself a really interesting solution out there. So advisor, make lives easier, reduce labor costs.
Yeah, I think that there's a common theme amongst all three of you, and it's the kind of understand the foundation, reduce friction, and understand labor challenges in the market today. Any other perspectives? I mean, in terms of what all three of you have said, anything that anybody wants to jump on in and add in?
Really quick to double down on what Jason said is that I love that reverse Pareto. For students to understand the Pareto concept, it's the 80% of your time is spent on 20% of your problems. What I'm really looking for is the solution that takes 20% of my time and solves 80% of my problems, exactly like Jason said. That to me is an absolute game changer, because that other 20% that's going to take a lot of my time is always going to be there and is always evolving and is usually something that's new and innovative. So if I can just get someone to take care of that 80% lift for me without costing my team or my colleagues a lot of agita or effort, that's a huge win. And I would contend there's a lot of the market space out there that doesn't get that.
Yeah, I think all too often what I've seen, and I would love to get your all's perspective as leaders, it's products in the space either they boil the ocean and they do everything for everybody, or they solve an extremely esoteric market space that's only 5 customers big. There may be 5 customers that are massive in size, but they're only 5 customers big, and that there's these distinct bumpers in the market. I don't know if you would agree or disagree with any of that.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's why I talk about that foundational piece, right? You can't go and chase something that's kind of more esoteric and more specialized unless you have good foundational elements, you have good data coming from those foundational elements.
Right.
That foundation is also, it's just so critical, Jay. When I think about some of those great products I've seen out there, I know they could help me, but I'm not mature enough. I don't have the foundational things in place to be able to take advantage of those. There's just some foundational components of technologies and solutions that are just not out there. So is there a way to tackle that market space? Maybe not in your product, but in a different product or some adjacent component of your product.
My thanks to Kim, Jason, and Jay for participating. I can't thank you all enough. And we hope all of you from a listener perspective and watcher perspective have a wonderful challenge event. And good luck to all of you and your teams.